What if I told you that the most terrifying torture device in history never actually existed? While thousands trembled at the mere mention of the Iron Maiden, the real instruments of medieval justice were far more ingenious, far more widespread, and infinitely more disturbing than any Hollywood movie could ever portray. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into the shadowy dungeons of medieval Europe to uncover the truth behind history's most notorious torture devices. But here's what's going to shock you. Nigh some of the most famous ones you think you know, complete fabrications. The real story is far more complex and far more chilling. Before we begin this journey into humanity's darkest chapters, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we're about to reveal. And stick around until the end, because I'm going to show you which of these devices is still legally used in some parts of the world today. Let's start with the elephant in the room. The Iron Maiden. Picture this. A metal sarcophagus lined with spikes, designed to slowly impale its victim while keeping them alive for maximum suffering. It's been featured in countless movies, books, and even inspired a heavy metal band. There's just one problem. It never existed. Not in medieval times. Anyway, the Iron Maiden was actually a 19th century invention, created for museum displays to thrill Victorian tourists, hungry for tales of barbaric medieval times. The earliest known example dates to 1793, and it was built purely for exhibition purposes. Medieval Europeans were certainly capable of cruelty, but they weren't theatrical about it. So if the Iron Maiden is fake, what did medieval torturers actually use? Enter the Judas cradle, and this one is disturbingly real. Picture a pyramid-shaped wooden seat, about the height of a bar stool, but with a crucial difference. The peak is sharpened to a fine point. The victim would be slowly lowered onto this point, which would be positioned beneath the most sensitive parts of their anatomy. The weight of their own body would gradually force them down onto the spike. What made this particularly diabolical was the control it gave the torturer. By adjusting chains or ropes, they could control exactly how much pressure was applied. They could keep a victim suspended for hours, days even, in excruciating pain without causing immediate death. Medieval records from the Spanish Inquisition document its use extensively throughout the 15th and 16th centuries. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The Judas cradle wasn't just about extracting confessions, it was about public spectacle. In the town squares of medieval Europe, justice was theatre. The rack, the wheel, the stocks. These weren't hidden away in dark dungeons, they were center stage in a performance designed to reinforce social order through fear. Take the breaking wheel, used across Europe from antiquity through the 18th century. The victim would be tied to a large wooden wheel, and the executioner would systematically break their bones with an iron bar, starting with the limbs and working inward. But death wasn't the goal, not immediately. The broken victim would then be left on display, sometimes for days, as a warning to others. What's particularly chilling is how methodical this process was. Executioners were trained professionals who understood human anatomy. They knew exactly how to inflict maximum pain while keeping the victim conscious and alive for as long as possible. But perhaps no device reveals the medieval mindset quite like the strappado. Simple in design, devastating in effect, the victim's hands would be bound behind their back, and they'd be hoisted into the air by a rope attached to their wrists. The shoulders would dislocate almost immediately, but that was just the beginning. Weights would be added to the feet, and the victim would be repeatedly dropped and caught short, causing the arms to separate from the shoulder joints entirely. What makes the strappado particularly significant is how widespread it was. Unlike elaborate devices that required skilled craftsmen, any community could construct and use a strappado. Records show its use from Scotland to Sicily, from the 12th century well into the 18th. Galileo himself was threatened with the strappado during his trial by the Roman Inquisition in 1633. At 69 years old, the mere threat was enough to secure his recantation. The device was so well known, so universally feared, that its reputation alone could break the strongest will. But here's what's truly unsettling about medieval torture. It wasn't random violence, it was a legal system. The use of torture in medieval jurisprudence was highly regulated. The Roman canon legal tradition, which dominated much of medieval Europe, specified exactly when, how, and against whom torture could be applied. There were rules about who could be tortured, generally not nobility, clergy, or pregnant women. There were limits on duration and severity, and most importantly, Confessions obtained under torture had to be reaffirmed freely afterward to be legally valid. This wasn't sadism, it was bureaucracy. Court records from medieval France show detailed inventories of torture equipment, maintenance schedules, and even expense reports for their operation. The thumbscrews needed oil, the racks required regular adjustment, and someone had to clean the blood. Now, let's talk about a device that perfectly embodies this cold, systematic approach to human suffering: the pear of anguish. This deceptively small device, about the size of a pear, hence the name, was constructed of 4 metal segments joined by a screw mechanism. It would be inserted into the victim's mouth, rectum or vagina, and then slowly expanded by turning the screw. The segments would spread apart, tearing flesh and breaking bones. Different versions were used for different crimes. A pear with a more pronounced point was reserved for women accused of adultery or miscarriage. A blunter version was used for men convicted of sodomy. The most elaborate versions, decorated with engravings and religious symbols, were reserved for heretics and blasphemers. What's particularly chilling is how these devices were personalized. Museum collections across Europe contain dozens of variants, each crafted for specific anatomical considerations. This wasn't mass production. Each pear of anguish was a bespoke instrument of torture, carefully designed for maximum effectiveness against individual human anatomy. But perhaps the most psychologically devastating device wasn't designed to harm the body at all. The scold's bridle, also known as the branx, was a metal cage designed to fit over a woman's head. A metal plate or spike would be positioned to rest on the tongue, making speech impossible and often causing injury if the victim tried to talk. Some versions included bells or other noisemakers to draw public attention and humiliation. Used primarily against women accused of gossiping, nagging, or speaking out against authority, the scold's bridle reveals something crucial about medieval torture. It wasn't just about punishment, it was about control, social control, gender control, political control. Records from 16th century Scotland show women being sentenced to wear the bridle for hours or even days, paraded through town as objects of ridicule and warning to others who might dare to speak out of turn. Now, you might be thinking these devices belong to humanity's barbaric past, but here's the twist I promised you at the beginning. In 2019, the European Court of Human Rights ruled on a case involving the use of stress positions, a modern form of strappado, by British forces in Northern Ireland during the 1970s. While the court didn't classify it as torture, they acknowledged it as inhuman and degrading treatment. The techniques may have evolved, but the fundamental principle remains the same: the systematic application of pain to break human will and extract information. What can we learn from this dark chapter of human history? Perhaps it's that the capacity for both cruelty and rationalization runs deeper in human nature than we'd like to admit. Medieval Europeans weren't monsters. They were people who constructed elaborate legal and moral frameworks to justify inflicting unimaginable suffering on their fellow humans. They told themselves it was necessary for justice, for social order, for the greater good. They created rituals and ceremonies around it. They turned pain into performance, suffering into spectacle. And perhaps most unsettling of all, they genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. The medieval world of torture devices reveals uncomfortable truths about human nature that extend far beyond the Middle Ages. It shows us how easily ordinary people can become participants in systematic cruelty when it's sanctioned by authority, justified by ideology, and normalized by society. The real horror isn't in the devices themselves, it's in the human capacity to create them, use them, and sleep soundly afterward. What do you think? Are we truly more civilized than our medieval ancestors? Or have we simply become more sophisticated in our methods? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if this video made you think differently about medieval history. Next week, we're exploring the witch trials of Salem Bal, and you won't believe what actually happened in those courtrooms. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because that story will change everything you thought you knew about one of America's most infamous chapters. Until then, keep questioning what you think you know about history. The truth is always more complex and more disturbing than the stories we tell ourselves.